Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for being with us here today. Today, we're going to be talking about investing in humanity's future, powered by NEOM. And obviously, we couldn't be talking about the humanity's future without talking about the investments associated with it. Initially, I'm joined by my dear colleagues, Manar Al-Munif, the CIO of NEOM, and Majid Mufti, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Neom Investment Fund. And we'll talk a little bit about what both do and how does it all fit in the NEOM ecosystem. But I'll first start by just sharing where the birthplace of NEOM came from. Actually, the birthplace of NEOM came from this location, this place, 6 years ago in 2017 when His Royal Highness announced the vision of NEOM. And the vision of NEOM is really coming from the exactly solving for humanity's future. There are a lot of challenges in the world, challenges around urban sprawl, challenges around climate change, challenges around environmental sustainability, and how can we rethink of a region and a place that solves all these challenges and is fit for the future. And this is where the NEOM vision was born. And we always like to start by reading it out to our audience, reading out to ourselves, to remind ourselves the power and the magnitude of this vision. And we learned this from our CEO, Nadmin Nasser, who is always reminding us of this. And this is really the North Star that is driving everything that we do in NEOM. The vision is the land of the future where the greatest minds and top and best talent are empowered to embody pioneering ideas and exceed boundaries in a world inspired by imagination. It's very detailed, very articulated, and very calculated in the words that are being used. First of all, the land of the future. That's very important. Secondly, the focus on talent. We know that talent is going to be the key part of making NEOM succeed, and I'm glad to be part of this organization today, and I'm glad to be, inshallah, a future resident in NEOM when it's complete. And third, but last but not least, the fact that it doesn't necessarily talk about Saudi. It's a Saudi project, and it's a very proud Saudi project, but it's built for the world. It's a destination for the best talents from all over the world to come and live and deliver on this vision. Before we go into the investment theme of today's discussion, I'll just walk you very quickly through what is NEOM and where is it today. And I think this is a lot of questions. We received this from many of the audience. We have our booth here today. We have many activations, but it's just good to hear it from the horse's mouth as to where we are today, what is the latest on the development, and then we'll go and talk about the investment opportunities as well as the investment theme associated with NEOM. We've announced 5 regions of NEOM, and I'll start in sequential as to what will end first or what will be ready first. Sindala is the island of NEOM. That will be ready, inshallah, next year. This is a luxury island with 3 hotels, a golf course, a marina, a yacht club, and the full luxury amenities. And it's now recently well known for the island where His Royal Highness the Crown Prince did his Fox News interview. Getting it ready for activation for next year, inshallah, inviting everyone to come and join us as it's ready. Oxagon is our industrial city, industrial cluster, and it's home for advanced and clean industries, where we're actually already activating some of the industries on the ground. NEOM Green Hydrogen is being constructed there as we speak, as well as large-scale data centers, and we'll talk about this in more detail later on. Trojena, it's the mountain destination of NEOM. We have mountain tops that are as high as 2,600 meters, and it's where we're going to have the Asian Winter Olympics in 2029. We have a beautiful terrain, a beautiful weather all year round, and actually cold enough of a weather in the winter to sustain a 3-month ski season. So for all those skiers out there, would love to have you there when it's ready. The nature reserve, something that maybe we don't talk about as much, is the fact that 95% of NEOM is put aside as a nature reserve. untouched. And that will also be developed as a region for people to come and enjoy and view. And then we have the line. The line is where the livability of NEOM is going to take place. It's the vertical linear city that many of you may have heard about, that is constructed to house 9 million people in the end state. However, by 2030, we expect 300,000 people living on the line on the first phase. So this, in a nutshell, is the regions of the NEOM and the physical attributes of NEOM. But it's very, very important to highlight, and we'll come again to that as we discuss this with Manar and Majid, that NEOM is not a real estate development project. NEOM is an economy that is powered by 14 strategic sectors that have been clearly identified, and these are going to be effectively the contributors to the economic growth and the GDP growth and employment in NEOM. So beyond the physical aspects that I just discussed, which is significant, not taking anything away from that, really the power of NEOM is behind the economic aspects and the economy that it is going to be building. And we're going to talk about that a lot with both Manar and Majid as we think of where are we investing in the future to really deliver on these economies of the future. NEOM is the biggest Vision 2030 project, so it has clear contributions to the vision in terms of diversifying the kingdom's economy, creating jobs away from what has historically been a hydrocarbon-based economy. But in addition to that, it is there for a global mission and ambition. It is there to redefine livability, and you've seen that in a lot of the designs that we've done. It is there to redefine business, and we'll talk a little bit about that today as well, in terms of best-in-class and future-ready regulations and policies. And it's also there to redefine conservation, redefine the relationship between business and nature in a much more sustainable way, in a coexisting way, starting from a zero-legacy organization. So if we focus on the business side, which is going to be the focus of our discussion today, the investment, both in NEOM as well as from NEOM to the outside world, we believe that NEOM is an opportunity to build a profitable, sustainable, and innovation-based economy. This comes with very, very specific value propositions. First of all, the location. We're sitting at the crossroads of 3 major continents and very close to population centers around the world. We're a hub for global talent. You've heard me talk about the vision statement, where we're already attracting the best talent from all over the world, and will continue to do so going forward. Today, we have roughly 4,000 employees in NEOM coming from 95 countries from all over the world. And these, I'm proud to say, and I'm proud to be one of their colleagues, top in class, top of the top from all over the world coming to NEOM to really build the economies and the regions of the future. And for all the audience right here, I think the majority of them, if not all of them, are here in the audience, so I would encourage you to connect and engage with all of them. We're putting in place a regulatory environment that is best in class and one that is not hindered by any legacy or anchored by any legacy regulatory infrastructure. This gives us the opportunity to rethink of how can we do it in the most agile way, how can we do it in the most future-ready way, and how can we do it in the most digital way. Big announcements coming on this hopefully soon, but this, in my view, is one of the key value propositions of NEOM, creating a special economic zone with a regulatory environment that is globally competitive and will attract people and businesses from all over the world, not from the kingdom. And last but not least, you heard me talk about the 14 economic sectors. These are not the traditional sectors that we're trying to build. We're trying to build the sectors of the future across these 14 economic sectors. And I'm not going to spoil the conversation with Majid and Manar, but this is part of what we're doing. The investments that we're making is in these sectors. The attractions that we're getting from all over the world are part of these sectors to deliver on something that has never been done before. Now, we are, and I always tell Abu Ahmed Nadmi that I was lucky in the timing I came into NEOM. There was a long period where NEOM was announced in 2017. Abu Ahmed Nadmi with his team worked on developing the strategies, and then started entering into an execution mode end of 2020. However, it was difficult to describe the strategy and the execution without having anything on the ground. Over the last 3 years, led by Nadmi, the execution started, and we now have the blueprint very clear. Not only is the blueprint clear physically, but also the opportunities and the commercial opportunities that sit on top of it have become a lot more clearer right now. This resulted from significant investment in infrastructure that NEOM has done, obviously funded by majority PIF as well as the Ministry of Finance. But once that infrastructure layer has been put in place, which we're still investing in, we can already see and identify the right opportunities for the private sector to come and co-invest with us. We can already see and identify opportunities that have become commercial, feasible, bankable for the rest of the world to come join us in the journey. We've seen a couple of examples of that, and again, I'm not going to spoil Manar and Majid's presentations, but this is exactly what we're going to talk about. The case studies of what made people come invest with us, but also what the vision is of us investing in the world. And we categorize it in three broad categories. One is investment attraction. How are we attracting investors from all over the world to come to NEOM, and opportunities around that, including investors from the kingdom, of course. Secondly, strategic partnerships and joint ventures. And we made a very big announcement yesterday, which I'll let Manar talk about, around this category. And third, direct investments. Investments that we're making directly in global companies with a vision to bring that investment, either the technology, the IP, or the manufacturing to the kingdom. And Majid will talk about many of the investments that we've made so far and what the future pipeline looks like. We'll end today's discussion with with a discussion around very specific pipeline of opportunities that we expect to come in the future. The visibility now is a lot clearer than it ever was before. The master plan is ready. The business plan is close to being finalized. And with that comes a lot of certainty and visibility of where we can go to the market and ask the market to work with us both on the debt funding as well as on the equity funding side. Now, with a brief introduction to the organizations that my two colleagues run. Manar is the CIO of NEOM, and we have a department within NEOM called the NEOM Investment Office, which he runs. And this is catered to attracting the best investments from all over the world into the regions, as well as working with strategic partners in developing pioneering ideas similar to the one that we announced yesterday and that Manar is going to go through a little bit more detail today. Majid is the CEO of NEOM Investment Fund. NEOM Investment Fund is the wholly owned subsidiary of NEOM, catered to investing in the 14 economic sectors that we've identified and also attracting investment in those sectors. And this is something that, again, Majid will talk about in a lot more detail. So with that, I'll hand it over to Majid. Yesterday was a big day for you. It's a big day for all of NEOM, where NEOM Investment Fund was launched, inaugurated to the world, along with an announcement to describe what it is about. For those who haven't seen the announcement, if you can just share what is NIF about, what is the mandate, and what are you there to do?
Wonderful. Thank you, Rayyan. So yesterday was a monumental time, not just for NIF, but for NEOM at large. The NEOM Investment Fund is an important pillar out of the NEOM group structure. And as Rayyan mentioned, a lot of the sectors, a lot of the companies that you've seen are meant to be companies in their own right. Where the NEOM Investment Fund sits is going to be a portfolio manager, a first-tier subsidiary under NEOM Company, and that will oversee the sectors and the companies that are going to be developed over time. What we are today is a corporate development arm. So we support all the sectors on all their transaction needs, joint ventures, venture capital, acquisitions, PPPs and concessions on the infrastructure plays, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But all those transaction capabilities and almost like an investment banking advisory role within the NEOM group structure is centralized into NIF to support all the sectors. So we see the sectors as clients, essentially, and we play a portfolio management role. And I'll describe a little bit how we work with the sectors. So each and every sector has its own vision, an aspiration that is really pushing the envelope of where it takes NEOM to live up to its own, to the promise that it has. What we have done in NIF is working with the different sectors to better understand their strategies. Energy, food, water. So if we took food, for example, they have 4 different pillars that they're trying to achieve. A climate-proof agriculture, regenerative aquaculture, personalized nutrition, and novel foods. And with those different verticals, if we were to double-click on those and see what we invest into, be it a partnership in a joint venture, or be it a venture capital play, that's where the NIF comes in and supports. Yesterday or recently, we have closed an investment into a company called Blue Nalu, which is developing a cell-cultured seafood type. So this is essentially taking fish cells, putting them into a bioreactor, and you're growing that. And that's part of the novel food sector strategy that they're producing. We also have a lot of examples in the mobility space. We've done 5 investments so far on mobility, supersonic, jet airways, so essentially you're bringing back the Concorde. This is an investment we did into Boom, supersonic. We've also done an investment into Volocopter, which is an electric vertical takeoff and landing company. So we've put in $175 million into that company. But we're also developing a joint venture with them in NEOM to establish public transportation on the land side. A few other companies that we've invested into recently, yesterday was the announcement with Regent, which is an electrical sea glider. We have about 468 kilometers of coastline and an archipelago between Sindala Island and some of the other locations. So to live up to the sustainability promise in mobility, we need to invest into some of these companies that will provide that early on so that when their technologies are ready, we're able to integrate them as part of the wider public transportation system, which is meant to be seamless and integrating autonomous solutions as well. Part of the autonomous solutions was also another announcement that came out yesterday with a company called Pony AI. This is a China-based company where Dr. James and his team have done an amazing job in acting on putting autonomous mobility into cars. This is something when we were in China, we were sat in the back, there was nobody in the driver's seat, nobody in the passenger seat, and we went through Qingdao, absolutely interesting type of driving out there, cars coming in, and the car absolutely handled it carefully. So what we're looking to do is transfer some of those technologies, some of those autonomous vehicles. It'll be doing milk runs between the NEOM base camp and the airport very soon. So that's an investment of $100 million into the company, use of funds channeled back into a joint venture. So exactly as Rayan mentioned, it's not about the transaction. It is really about what we do after the transaction in terms of transferring a lot of that strategic benefit into NEOM. And I think that becomes such a mutual benefit because what we can do for the companies is really pilot and deploy some of those technologies in NEOM. And with that brand equity, promoting and saying that this technology works and we're adopting it, I think there's huge value add for both ends of the side.
Thanks a lot, Majid. We'll come back to some of these topics a bit later. But now to Manar. Tell us what you do and tell us what some of the case studies that we've seen coming out of your organization.
Thank you very much for being here. I think so. It's important to highlight that NEOM is not just a project. We're really building an economy that's going to transform things many ways. Today in NEOM Investment Office, we're an investment arm within the NEOM company with a prime focus in supporting the regional development of NEOM, which is simply all the different regions that Rayan spoke about, Sindala, The Line, Oxagon, Trojena, Nature Reserve, just to name few. So what does that really mean? What do we do? In order to bring these regions to life, from building the required infrastructure to be able to deliver on the timeline, from accepting and receiving visitors to residents, to making this region happen, this is really our focus, is how do we work with the region try to identify different opportunities to support bringing private sector as part of this overall development. And we do it in multiple different ways, either through joint venture, triple P, just to make sure that we're able to deliver on the timeline. The scale that we're speaking about in NEOM is second to none. It's something that's never been done before, as well as the timeline. So it's about how do we think outside the box to be able to deliver that on time. We've done and developed a roadmap of how do we really engage with the private sector. And it's primarily based on NEOM Development timeline. So we phased it up into 3 different phases. In the early phase, our main approach is to partner and work with companies that are really focused on the primary infrastructure that will help us to deliver NEOM on time, on quality, and on cost. Then after that, we'll move later on in a few years into the secondary type of infrastructure, which is primarily service provision. Then there is, at a later stage, the mature type, which we're looking at different types of investors that would really focus on driving the innovations, new technologies, commercialization out of NEOM. We've equally launched a program in NEOM that's called the Partnership Programs, which is simply to utilize our spend as being the largest project globally to drive value add for NEOM. And the aim of this partnership program will focus on 5 key pillars. How do you create industries of the future? How do you make sure you attract FDI? How do you localize this industry, create jobs, reduce cost to NEOM? But most importantly, how do you drive innovation in an expedited manner, second to none globally? Because you have the scale and the capability to do that. To date, I think so we've been successful. We've announced yesterday a joint venture with DSV, a global logistic company, a $10 billion investment joint venture between NEOM, who owns 51%, and DSV, that owns 49%, to deliver the end-to-end logistic activity in NEOM, starting primarily with construction as well as non-construction. And when we think of the reason that we started with this is simple terms. NEOM demand and scale is unprecedented. Our demand till 2030 is to move 375 million tons of construction. And that's going to grow all the way to more than 2 billion by 2055. The scale that we're speaking about have never been seen anywhere else around the world. And it's a perfect opportunity for us to have a partner who's a global leader that have the knowledge, the scale, the know-how to actually partner with us in transforming these industries as well as delivering a NEOM need. Another example is the Triple P program that I think so we started. As we're developing these regions, we need to make sure, and we're constructing them, that the people who's doing the work have the right place to stay in. So we've launched a Triple P program for the construction villages. It's around 95,000 beds at a cost of 21 billion Saudi riyal, in which 15 billion was actually debt from the market. And most of the local banks played a significant role in that to be able to deliver it. And we've achieved a financial close early June. Plus the hotels that we're having in NEOM, a couple of hotels today that achieve financial close, and we're due to open them very soon. So we can welcome everyone to be part of the development and join us in making sure that we're able to all of us work together and bring NEOM to life.
Thanks, Manar. I think these are great examples where what I discussed earlier around maturing out of the infrastructure phase and going into the commercial phase, that is validated by the market. All of these investments that Manar talked about are investments that came from the private sector, whether it's the temporary hotels that we have today or the construction villages. But these come at given the scale of NEOM, these are significant amounts. These are 21 billion, and this is only phase 1, by the way. There is the next wave of construction villages coming to the market, and we're seeing excellent reception from the market. Similarly to, obviously, the DSV JV, where we're starting to see NEOM really coming to life, and having the right partners and supporters from all over the world bringing that together is going to help accelerate the delivery that we have. which is very ambitious, very challenging. We're under a lot of pressure from not me, but we cannot do it on our own. We have to deliver it with partners. And we're entering a stage where we're seeing many of these partners actually put real money and real capital in NEOM to help support us. Going back to Majid, and since we're talking about investing in the humanity, investing in the future of humanity, can you explain how some of the technologies that you're investing in will be applied back in NEOM, and how revolutionary they are compared to, you know, the traditional industries in which they operate?
Yeah, there's a number of examples to tackle that. We talked about venture capital for a bit, and I'll come back to that in a second, but we've also done some joint ventures with larger partners. When we think about connectivity, to ensure that, you know, under Autonomous, our tech and digital company, has supplied everything from subsea cables to fiber to antennas of 5G. The new technology that we have also brought in together with them is a joint venture partnership with OneWeb, which is low Earth orbital satellites. And what that does, essentially, it's Wi-Fi's the entire region. That type of relationship, in terms of building the satellites in NEOM potentially, doing launches, having connectivity across not just NEOM, but the adjacent region as well, and that would feed into the connect and the compute side of what Autonomous is trying to do. That's part of the strategy that requires a lot of building and part of that value chain. And so that connectivity from subsea cables to the rest, which is called the CNN or the Carry Neural Network, we bundle that together and we work with joint venture partners from the telco or the people who are in the mobility operating space to joint venture there. We would bring in a joint venture partner on the LEO Earth orbital satellites. And then we're bringing in bolt-on certain technologies as well. So that's an example of how a full-fledged strategy requires a lot of partnerships to come in and have done. Similarly, in the mobility side, we talked a little bit about some of those technologies that we've brought in as well. We've also invested into a company called Zero Avia, which does a fuel cell of hydrogen and electric. So when we talk about our aviation needing to be sustainable in NEOM in its entirety, we are already putting in money early and seeding that early for a future benefit for the NEOM airlines to ensure that the space is also having a hydrogen-fueled and hydrogen-powered aviation. So there's certain things that we're able to do today, and there are things that we are seeding for tomorrow as part of the partnership.
And just on that, since you mentioned hydrogen, we didn't talk about the NEOM Green Hydrogen Company. Maybe you want to shed some light, Majid, on that joint venture.
I will, and please jump in. But this is a joint venture that NEOM is incredibly proud of. It is the first and largest green hydrogen project globally. It is a three-way joint venture between NEOM, Aqua, which is a national company, and Air Products, an international multinational company. The entire amount of hydrogen is committed and offtake and export. So this is not just for NEOM, this is an export play as well. And it is green hydrogen because the electrolysis process is energized through renewable energy, 100% renewable energy. So you have green hydrogen, you have gray and blue. NEOM is the first to actually produce a full-fledged green hydrogen project at that scale.
This is, I mean, Majid is underselling this. It's an $8.5 billion project. What's most interesting about it is fully feasible, bankable, sustainable, with no subsidies from NEOM or the Saudi government. So this is a fully commercial project built in NEOM with foreign direct investments, as well as a local national champion, funded by global banks as well as local banks and the local infrastructure fund. So it comes together as a great case study of really putting NEOM on the map and becoming the epicenter of green hydrogen globally, but also doing this through a very commercial and feasible and attractive project. And again, this is phase one. We have major ambitions for green hydrogen, and this is just the beginning. So going back to Manar, I'm sure many of the people in the group are going to be asking, okay, so we've heard a lot of what you're doing. What is the pipeline? What's coming next? And how can they participate?
Well, we have a very big pipeline that's waiting for everyone to participate and be part of it. And I think so, the simple message we're going to say that NEOM is already open for business and we're ready. I think so many of the investment bankers in the room today have received actual packages in which state we're out in the market. And maybe I'll shed light to some of those packages that is ready out to go to the market. One of them is simply we're looking at Trojena. As I mentioned, we're developing the required infrastructure. Trojena is a region in the mountains built around a lake, 14 hotels. We're taking the first batch of 4 hotels, around 2,500 keys to be built. We're taking that to the private sector, in which we're telling the private sector, let's engage in how do we structure it, and how can they be part of this major development with a clear timeline, with a clear design and execution strategy. So that's already in the market, and we're excited. The feedback we're receiving from the market is very promising. Equally, we're looking, as we're building these regions, we need to make sure we develop thriving communities from having the right healthcare infrastructure, education infrastructure, and we have another package as well in the market with the banks and with the investors to how can we start building state-of-the-art healthcare facilities, state-of-the-art educational facilities that will not only focus on delivering the assets that we need today, but how can we introduce the most innovative structure to be able to cater for developing new generations of talent as we're developing. Another one we're speaking about is the construction village, as Rayan mentioned. Wave 2, we started developing that in the market. And I can tell you the response that we're receiving from the private sector is overwhelming. Truly, it is overwhelming. Everyone sees the opportunity. Everyone would like to be part of this vision because it's not only about developing a small asset, it's simply more personal to the people of how can I be part of this overall development and make a difference. We're also going to go shortly in the market about other partnerships because the scale of NEOM, if I just put an example in steel. When you think of the amount of steel that NEOM need from heavy and jumbo, it is by far more than what you would ever expect. Example, for heavy and jumbo only, we're looking at something at the tune of more than 3 million tons till 2030. Now that represents more than 25% of the global traded capacity in one customer, which is NEOM. So our aim is not to secure a partner that will supply, but how do we create an ecosystem of industries, starting from supply all the way to fabrication, to the supply chain around it that will enable us to actually move forward. Equally in modular, because in NEOM, as we're building the city, we're not only aiming to use traditional methods of building. Our aim is really to focus on introducing the latest technology that will enable us to build NEOM in the most advanced way, eliminating waste, making sure that we stay true to our commitment about carbon dioxide. So modular as well, looking at both 2D and 3D. I think so the numbers that we have in NEOM by far exceed what you see around the world, plus another more opportunity that's going to come as well.
Thanks, Manar. Very exciting. And you can see how the initial phase of de-risking the project through the infrastructure spend that NEOM has done individually through the PIF and MOF has created an opportunity for others to come and benefit from the commercial assets. Majid, on your end, when we talk about the sectors, where do you see the opportunity going forward for partners and private sectors to participate in?
I think some of the more imminent opportunities come in on the infrastructure side. Yeah, well, and media. But on energy, so when we talk about infrastructure plays, desalination, wastewater treatment, brine works, potentially. There's so much coming in on the infrastructure play, especially on energy generation, energy storage as well, that you will be seeing packages come out very soon. So NIF works very closely with the different sectors, energy in this particular instance, to ensure that we have a feasibility study that is bankable, with a business plan that is ready for the investor community, that also meets international standards in sustainability and some of the other parts for the DCM, for the debt capital markets as well. And so we work very closely with them to also identify the best structure. Some of these are going to be concessions, such as wastewater treatments, the airports, the pumped hydro storage, where we need to deal with nighttime energy storage as well for the energy. So if we want to be 100% renewable, yes, we've got the solar panels during the daytime, but the energy during the nighttime needs that storage. Pumped hydro storage is probably one of the first ones that's going to go out to the market. So working very closely with the sectors to identify, is this a JV, is this a concession, build, own, operator transfer, finding the right structure, preparing it, and then going to market is also a large role that the NIF plays with the sectors, similar to what Dr. Manar is doing with the regions.
I think this all goes back to the point that maybe we didn't emphasize enough, and that NEOM is going to be 100% renewable, meeting or exceeding the highest standards globally in environmental sustainability. And when you look at the nature of the investments that are being made, they're all heading in that direction. They're all there to deliver on this promise, which is not easy, but it's one that can only be done through the right partnerships with the global leaders in those fields, but also experimenting with technologies that haven't been done before anywhere in the world. And hence comes the VC part of what Majid does, investing in many of these companies. Some of them are a little bit earlier stage, but we're proud to be the test bed for some of these technologies in NEOM. Volocopter is a great example in mobility. Volocopter is the eVTOL business where we've done the first test flight actually in NEOM for this autonomous eVTOL, and hopefully this will be a mode of transportation, a normal mode of transportation in NEOM going forward that really step changes the whole idea of how we think of mobility. We're not thinking about things in NEOM in incremental and marginal ways. We're thinking of NEOM of how can we step change everything that we're doing. And if we start a new city with eVTOLs as a normal mode of transportation, people will get too used to it. It'll become mainstream. We don't have to rely on legacy infrastructures and legacy mobility systems. So as I was saying earlier, I think we have a lot of exciting opportunities coming out of NEOM. We have de-risked many of the projects and a lot of commercial opportunities for the private sector to come and join us in the ride, join us along the journey, create something that's never been done before. And it's one that has the magnitude, scale, impact, ambition that goes beyond just the region and goes to the rest of the world. And with that, I'll just end with a very short video to show you the progress of NEOM so far. I know I said a lot, but it's nothing like seeing it. And as Abu Ahmed always say, you're always welcome to come and see it yourself. Seeing is believing. And it's good to see the before now, and you'll see the after, hopefully when many of you come and visit as tourists or move there as residents in the future. If you can play the video, please.
NEOM is open for business. The new future being built in Saudi Arabia to redefine business, livability, and conservation. Environmental, social, and governance is at the heart of everything we do. Our special economic zone is almost the size of Belgium and sits at the crossroads of 3 continents, providing a new destination for global trade and investment. Progress is rapid with large-scale investment, best in the world talent onboarding every day, and construction gaining pace exponentially. The Line, our city of the future, is moving forwards fast, as is our Center for Advanced and Clean Industries, Oxagon, the luxury island destination, Sindala, and the mountains of NEOM, Etrogena. There are already 3,000 plus NEOM employees here from more than 90 countries, as well as more than 60,000 construction workers. Major infrastructure projects like roads, utilities, and a hospital are already built in NEOM. Some $2 billion will be invested into the port of NEOM, and the first container terminal will open in 2025. We are owned and supported by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. We have raised $6.1 billion of financing to build the world's largest green hydrogen plant to produce green ammonia at scale in 2026 through NEOM Green Hydrogen Company, a joint venture with Air Products and Aqua Power, and one of the biggest social infrastructure public-private partnerships globally, will see $5.6 billion invested into building 10 residential communities to house 95,000 people. NEOM will offer the best international standards in relation to tax, the regulatory environment, and commercial law. With access to 13% of world trade flowing through the nearby Red Sea and 40% of the globe being within a 6-hour flight. Nobody has done this before. That's why it's special. A new economic model and a beacon of change that will benefit generations to come. We invite you to join us by investing in the new future where people and planet can thrive while businesses can provide lasting impact. This is NEOM.
Thank you very much for coming. Our time is up, and we're all around to answer any questions you may have after the session. Thank you. Thanks, Majid. Thanks, Manar.
Thank you, Raya.